Welcome to Art Arts, and this is a new week, maybe the last of our severe lockdown here in Italy. We can see some light beyond the window, and we hope everything will be fine and we'll have a very nice and enjoyable summer, hopefully. We don't know, but we hope. Today we will talk about Vasari, but I have to give you some explanation. In the intro of this arts, I told you that I would have talked only about what I really adore talking about. So why Vasari? Let's start from the beginning. Vasari was born in Arezzo. That was part of the Republic of Florence. He was discovered by the painter Luca Signorelli. He went he was educated in the workshop of Guillaume de Marsillat in Arezzo, and then he moved to Florence. He was educated with the young Medicis of the Medici family, Hippolytus and Alexander, so the creme de la creme, we have to say. And he was educated as a scholar, not just as a painter only. He was very smart because he had two great insights. The first, that the workshop is fundamental. So he took with him from the very beginning a lot of pupils, a lot of workers, a lot of helpers, and all this workshop, this well organized workshop, allowed him to have hundreds, I'm not joking, hundreds of different commissions all over Italy. The second insight was to have, from the very beginning, a protector, not a saint, a real protector. So Hippolytus, the Cardinal Hippolytus de' Medici in Rome was the first, then other cardinals or bishops in the papal court, the Pope himself, and then later the best, his brother-in-law, we have to say, Cosimo the First, the Medici family, so the Duke of Florence. Under his protection, he was able to become the most important painter and artist. He was the court artist, actually, as an architect as well. So, I told you he could move, he would travel a lot because he had the money to do this, because with a protector he was not in a hurry working. He had time to go in Rome, in Florence, in Venice, in Bologna, and to work in the cities and have commissions for every kind of institutions and private people or religious institutions. Traveling a lot, he was able to discover a lot of different schools of paintings, and it was so important, but I'm explaining later. He also transformed the city of Florence under Cosimo I. We have to remember his architect works, so the renovation of the Palazzo Vecchio from a medieval building, a government building, to the house of a royal court, the ducal one, and then the connection, the hallway from the Vasari corridor from the Palazzo Vecchio through the Uffizi, the new offices of the city wanted by Cosimo I, to Palazzo Pitti, so the new residence, the new house of the family outside the old city. And then a lot of restorations of churches all over Italy. But why I'm talking about him? Because I don't like him as a painter and as an architect, but I adore him as a writer. I told you he was a scholar too, so knowing a lot of different schools of paintings, he decided to write down a book dedicated to Cosimo, absolutely, about the most important architectures, sculptures and painters from Cimabue, so from the 1200s to his time. So the end of this book is his life. He was also a biographer and an autobiographer. And with this book that was written not in Latin but in Italian, or we have to say in Tuscan, it was very enjoyable. So he wrote down like he used to talk. It was very easy to be read. And he wrote down a lot of anecdotes of his contemporaries, other painters, so he's very funny sometimes. And he also wrote down some mottos that became very, very famous. For example, I'm quoting, "Union in painting is the discordance of different colors being matched," we can say also tuned, "together," and no comment needed. And it's very famous. And then with this book, he absolutely transformed the history of art. I have to thank Professor Bartalini in the University of Siena, because thanks to his lesson concerning the history of art and the critic of art during the centuries, he let me discover this writer-painter and others, and it's fantastic to read these books because it's like a window open to an old world, to an old century, an old world. About Vasari, we have to say that with this book he gave these guidelines above art and history of art. The most important were these two. The first one was the importance of the drawing, because without the drawing, architecture, sculpture, and painting are impossible to be realized in a proper way. I'm quoting. Just a moment. "Drawing, father of our three arts, architecture, sculpture, and painting, coming from intellect, can find in everything a sort of universal judgment." So without the drawing, without the drawing, you can be a good painter, architect, or sculptor. That's it. And that's why he had such a severe judgment above Gothic art. He considered the Gothic as a barbarian art, and also over the Venetian painters and painting. So he saved just Titian. The other ones were ugly to him, were terrible. And the second thing that just comes from the first, that the center of art, of the evolution of art, is Tuscany. The 90% of the artists that are whose lives are inside this book are Tuscan. The 70% are Florentines. So the center of the art from the beginning, from the 12th century, from Cimabue to nowadays, the days of Vasari, is Florence. And the idol, the perfection, the master of the masters is Michelangelo. After him, the desert. And he just summoning all the arts together, architecture, sculpture, and painting, in the perfect way. So there's no way to talk about the arguing between painters and sculptors. With him, all the three arts are together in perfection. That's it. That's the judgment about him of Vasari. I'm quoting again. "Meritoriously, he has to be said unique sculptor, highest painter, and very eminent architect. And who call him divine, he is absolutely not wrong." So he is a kind of divinity in art. And we have just this kind of light. We have to follow him, and they did. So the Florentine school did for centuries. And the date of today is 1568, the date of the edition of these lives, and just is the same year of the end of the Council of Trento. So the end of the Counter-Reformation. After Luther, the church had this kind of harsh answer to the thesis, to the Lutheran thesis, and gave some precise guidelines for art and artists to represent religious iconography. So the guidelines of Vasari, the artistic ones, we have to say. The guidelines of the Counter-Reformation formed all the 1500s and beyond. So after him, the history of art and the art was not the same anymore. That's why it's important. So thank you for your attention. See you next week in a kind of more freedom situation, more free situation, who knows, and we will talk about, and it's for kids, so this is art for kids. We will talk about the dome of the Santa Maria del Fiore Cathedral of Florence by Brunelleschi. See you next week. Bye bye.